Building brands through celebrity endorsements. Now this is thoughtful. Hello, I'm Trevor Lai in Shanghai. Companies have capitalized on the popularity and charisma of celebrities to help build brands for decades, and there are plenty of advantages. Celebrities can enhance brand equity and credibility, increase name recognition, and they can freshen a dated brand for a younger target market, based on the assumption that if someone so famous uses it, it must be good. There are risks associated with using celebrities too, as famous people can also make mistakes. Lance Armstrong, Edison Chen, Tiger Woods, and Kate Moss are just a few famous faces who lost lucrative sponsorship deals due to controversial headlines. This week on Thoughtful China, our panelists, Elan Shou, Andrew Collins, and Kevin Lee will help you understand the risks and advantages associated with celebrity endorsements in China. And Sirius Wang will share a thought or two about how Chinese consumers view celebrity-based marketing. But first, we have a special guest in our studio to give you the celebrity point of view on this topic. Joining me here today is Stephen Amell, one of the hottest new action stars in Hollywood with a growing fan base in China. Also joining us is Adam Roseman, founder and CEO of Tang, a company that manages online interactive communities for Hollywood stars like Stephen with their fans in China. Welcome to the show, Stephen, Adam.
Thank you for having us.
So I believe this is your first time in China. What is the most surprising thing that you discovered during your trip here?
The scale. The scale of it is amazing. Just looking at downtown Beijing and downtown Shanghai, it reminds me of, I don't know if you've seen the movie Inception, where they go down to the world that Leo DiCaprio and his wife build, and it's just buildings forever and ever. I don't know why, but it made me think of that. It's just, I'm just blown away by the architecture and the scale of those two cities.
And while you were looking around the cities, I'm sure you noticed a lot of celebrity billboards and
Yes.
a lot of endorsements. Is that one of the main purposes of your trip here, is to really expand your fan base and look at the market?
Well, the purpose of the trip is to expand the fan base. That's the first part. The second part is to better understand the fan base. I mean, China is, no pun intended, it's a very foreign place to me. You hear about it, but I had never been here. So I didn't really understand the culture, where the country is in terms of its evolution, and it's helpful to learn that now because, a lot of aspects of it really don't seem to be particularly different from, North America, where I usually am.
And Adam, you helped basically create this connection here for
Sure.
Stephen.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how important it is now for Hollywood stars to really cultivate their fan base personally in China?
Absolutely. Well, for someone like Stephen in particular, who has a show that's licensed into this market onto 4 of the major online networks, it presents a tremendous opportunity for him to connect with his fans and to develop a future career here, whether it be through film, whether it be through brand opportunities, etc. So this trip was put together, as Stephen said, in order for him to be able to give back a bit to those fans that have been so passionate about following the first season.
Now, a lot of studios and agents get excited about China, but we've also seen some missteps here with celebrities perhaps endorsing the wrong product.
Sure.
And as more and more stars enter the market, is one of your jobs to warn your clients sort of before they come in not to, make the false move?
Sure. My background was an investment banker and private equity investor, and I spent a few years doing that in this market before starting this business. So our focus is very much to take a private equity-like approach to every transaction that we work on from a diligence perspective to ensure that an artist is going to benefit from that brand endorsement or whatever other form of collaboration they're doing in this market and not have it be detrimental to their career.
And Stephen, in your time here now, have you interacted with any Chinese brands?
Yeah, we've met, you tell me how many.
Probably 100.
Probably 100.
Wow.
Probably, and again, you spoke about missteps when you asked Adam a question, and that to me was also an important part of this trip, to better understand the marketplace, to better understand the culture, so that, because if someone had brought me an opportunity before this trip, I just would have been essentially going on blind faith, and that's how missteps are made more often than not. So it's good to come here and to better understand things. But yeah, lots of meetings with lots of brands.
So let's talk about some of the projects perhaps outside of the Aero, whether it's in business or branding that you're working on personally.
Well, I'm trying to cultivate my Facebook page, my Twitter my Twitter account. I just started a WeChat for China, and just trying to cultivate it from a standpoint of gaining more and more friends, followers, however you likes, whatever the case may be. I haven't done too much to exploit, for lack of a better word, the success of Arrow, but I'm starting with projects that I am passionate about. My friend and I just started a winery in the Walla Walla Valley in the state of Washington in the United States, and our first wine comes out on July 9th, and it's a very small project, but we called it Knocking Point, which is where you knock an arrow on the bow, and we had Jim Lee from DC Comics design the label, and that's a fun side venture that is made possible because of success on Arrow. But yeah, there's that, and I would like to, in between the second and then hopefully the third season, branch out and do a film.
Well, speaking of films then, I mean, China obviously has a very rich history of action stars. In fact, overseas, that's primarily what we're known for, dating back to Bruce Lee and then Jackie Chan and Jet Li and now Donnie Yen. Is this a niche that you think you've carved out for yourself? Because obviously you've done many other roles. In fact, a lot of our female viewers may know you from Hung.
Sure.
But, action star seems perhaps a more sustainable niche to further.
Well, yeah, because I'm new at it. Fighting on screen, I don't have any formal fight training. So fighting on screen, that's been a process, and that's something that I've learned, and I'm confident in saying that I've gotten better at as we've moved through Arrow. We're constantly fighting on Arrow, so the opportunity to learn is there more and more.
Well, and I would venture to say, especially since audiences in China have grown up watching excellent, professionally trained fighters, one of your advantages, aside from getting more time training, would be being able to delve deeper into the character. Because obviously, aside from choreography, a lot of the film or your TV series rides on the fact that people love your character. So if they see you fighting and they see you actually acting while you're fighting.
That is where you separate a stunt performer from an actor.
Exactly.
Not to speak ill of this person, but when I was learning my fight training, our fight choreographer, James Bamford, who's a huge fan of martial arts and Chinese film and Japanese film, and wears Bruce Lee t-shirts like 4 days a week. And he said, whenever you do something, whatever it is, you throw a punch, you throw a kick, you block a punch, you do some crazy move, you have to do it with an intention. You have to do it with the same sort of thoughtfulness and consideration as you would have when you're delivering a line. And then he said, otherwise you're Jean-Claude Van Damme, which is he's obviously tremendously successful, but he said, that is essentially ballet on screen. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a fight. And, you can tell when it's the actor and when it's the stunt performer. People, I'm a student of film, so I can always tell. Someone that is a more casual viewer, they may not know that they're watching a stunt performer, but there will be something about what they're seeing on screen, even if it's slightly almost imperceptible, that will ring hollow. And that's why I get so maniacal about being involved in as much as I can, because I know that ultimately it leads to a better product.
Sure, but at the same time, there's also commercial realities that are starting to infiltrate their way into Hollywood blockbusters. One of the things that impressed me about Man of Steel was the fact that their $225 million budget, they made back 170 before they even released the film through brand endorsements and things like that. And how do you make that feel natural, as part of the universe that you've created? So Adam, when you're working with clients, is this one of the concerns that they talk to you about? Do they voice this and do they say, well, I want to be involved, I want to expand my fan base, but make sure I don't look like I'm selling out, or, is this a concern?
Sure, I think that's important, and I think it needs to be a product that's consistent with their personality and consistent with what they're passionate about, as we're talked about, and as we were talking about, not force an artist into a particular brand that just doesn't fit them. And in particular in China, when you have a market that always values foreign product to some extent and places a premium on that product, and you're attaching a foreign artist to that brand with the intention of bringing that brand up a notch from a consumer perspective standpoint, that artist really needs to fit the brand.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you're passionate about that you could see yourself perhaps in China, whether it's sports? I know you're a big sports fan.
We had a very interesting meeting with a company about a line of fitness products. So it was the original idea, or sort of the kernel for the meeting, was a product that is one of those one of those products where you become, the idea is becoming more fit by not really doing anything. It's like the product does it for you.
Okay.
And so when I spoke to Adam, I said, listen, I'm interested in fitness products, but that's not how I would go about it. Okay, I go to the gym and I sweat my butt off and I work really hard. So I'd be happy to do something along those lines, but let's do something that if it was sitting in my trailer that I would pick up or lay down and use.
And from a brand campaign perspective, to have a fan actually see him there in his trailer using this to train for the show, that's what's going to sell the product.
Sure. It's much more credible than seeing him sitting in a lazy boy, wearing something. Yeah, the Electro. Right. I've seen that before, like 10 years ago. I don't think it works.
Maybe it works, but it doesn't work for me.
Sure.
You can't make missteps when it's based out of enthusiasm. And if you're enthusiastic for a product, even if it doesn't go well, I think people will forgive you. But if you throw yourself behind something where it's clear that the motivation is almost purely financial, and again, it's the same as the difference between a stunt performer and an actor. Something about what people are seeing, even if it's almost imperceptible, is gonna not ring totally true.
Well, you're talking about authenticity.
Exactly.
And I think in China, authenticity has a ton of value. Could you share with us, perhaps a story of a crisis or a case where a celebrity went wrong and perhaps it hurt the authenticity factor for them in China?
Sure, I'm not going to point out any particular celebrity or brand
You're not going to throw Jean-Claude Van Damme under the bus like I did?
I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus today. But I think there's countless examples in the international market, in the U.S. Market in particular, where you'll have a premium celebrity that, for example, goes and endorses cat food to get an extra buck and not consistent with that premium brand of that particular celebrity. And as a result, that has an impact on their career, not just from a branding perspective, but from a director perspective as well, when they're going and look to cast that person for their next role. And the latest thing that the fans have seen online is that person pitching cat food. So I think it's very important from an artist perspective to ensure that they're going to look at every brand as if they look at every script, and ensure that it's something that they want to be a part of as their careers build.
And by the way, it's 2013. I mean, it's even in 2005. I think that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, you'd see celebrities and they would go to China or Australia or Japan, sure, and they wouldn't behave themselves, right, because they're under the impression that what they do is not going to be seen. Sure. I've been traveling the world in between season 1 and season 2 of Arrow, and I am mindful the entire time while I'm sitting through interview after interview that if there is one interview where I just look at the person and I lose my temper or say something stupid, it doesn't matter if I do 99 interviews that are fantastic. They're going to take that one and it's going to be everywhere. I mean, there's no part of the world that is in the closet, so to speak. Everything that you do everywhere, if you make a misstep, if you don't behave like you would behave in your hometown with your mom in the crowd, then people are going to see it.
Yeah, and the success of those events, you look at David Beckham, who was here last week, right? And you had the situation at the university here in Shanghai where there was a major security issue. There was a shortfall of security. There were 5 people injured, and that made it on international media almost as quickly as it made it into the U.S. media.
And it put a blemish on what would have otherwise been a very successful trip for him. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
One common mistake of brand managers in China is to choose celebrities according to their own liking and the popularity of the celebrities. It often leads to the contradiction between the brand and the celebrity, with the result that the consumer only remember the featured stars, not advertised brand. Even if some brand increase their awareness within a short term, it is not beneficial to their long-term brand building. The key to the success of the celebrity endorsement is to adopt a standard evaluation system to determine the best matching point between a brand and its spokesperson. The first step to finding the good fit is clarifying the purpose of the celebrity advertising alongside full understanding of your target consumers. For new brand with an urgent desire to improve the awareness, it is okay to use a popular celebrity, but even so, it's still critical to carry out a necessary evaluation. that he or she also represents other similar products? Do consumers find the star trustworthy? Secondly, brand managers needed to understand whether the celebrity candidate shows the personality that the brand hopes to associate or develop with. So it is important to uncover target consumers' real perception of both the brand and the celebrity, and make the comparison between the two to see whether there is the fit. Brand managers should also consider how to achieve great differentiation from the competitors and whether the certain characters of the considered spokesperson has already been utilized in the similar products. For example, Jianzhou is a popular choice for many advertisers, while for most advertising, the emphasis is always placed on his being rebalanced, creative, and playful, which has repeated so often that it's difficult for the consumers to differentiate among the brand featured with him. The better example is the tea brand. You love it, though the advertisement which also starts Jianzhou, but the story creatively highlights the less exposed caring aspect of Zhou's personality. In our testing results, the ad scores top in both the brand linkage and the likability.
Thanks, Sirius. With me now is Elan Shou, Managing Director China and Senior Vice President of Ruderfin PR, Andrew Collins, Chief of Staff at Mailman, and Kevin Lee, Chief Operating Officer of China Youthology. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, buddy.
Now, Asia, especially Japan, has a long history of hiring Hollywood celebrities to come over and endorse their products here domestically. In China, is this an increasing trend as well, bringing over Hollywood celebrities to endorse local brands?
I mean, no question. The emergence of the social platforms, even becoming more global, even as Weixin starts to go more global, that also has a throw-on effect. But I think the volume of foreign talent launching across Chinese social media last year was probably an increase of 1,000% as opposed to the year before. A lot of these US celebrities, especially through TV, with the access to TV online, where most of the viewing is consumed, is big opportunities in TV. So there's a lot of a lot of TV guys coming over, guys and girls opening their social media accounts, and that's going to continue to happen.
And Kevin, you spent a lot of time looking at the cultural trends within China. Celebrity endorsements here are obviously very popular for brands to latch on to. Do you think there's been more and more openness as more foreign films come into the box office here locally to sign on big Hollywood names to endorse brands here?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that as Chinese population in general gets much more exposure to Western culture and Western media assets, and they've been doing it for the last 15, 20 years now. And so the level of sophistication has gone to the point where they're able to identify with different celebrities, and they know somewhat of their history, at least know their work, recognize them. And so it's gotten to that point where on the mass, you're able to get a large following, or you're able to turn heads using celebrities. On the other side of it, which is on the Hollywood side of it, you're just seeing trailblazers in the last 5-6 years, those that really start to first enter into the Chinese market. I mean, the really early ones like John Cusack and Keanu Reeves and stuff, they really paved the way, and they start to show other Hollywood stars that actually there's an available market here, so why not start talking about it? And in terms of sophistication or what they know about the Chinese market, not much, but they're willing to give it a try. Everyone knows the number of eyeballs and the number of people here, so it's an opportunity that they can't ignore.
Well, and interestingly enough, when you talk about providing markets and opportunities for actors or celebrities overseas, sometimes they can breathe a second life into a celebrity that perhaps in North America is on the tail end. I look at a Nicolas Cage and his deal with Montblanc, and he's everywhere in China. So Elan, when you look at luxury brands and how they've attached to, let's talk about Chinese celebrities, you see for Gucci, you have Li Bibing, for example. Is that working? Do Chinese consumers now look at those global luxury brands and say, that's a credible connection with this Chinese celebrity?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Let's put it this way. First, these international brands, they've already established their status in China. Then they begin to use Chinese celebrities. It's not they entering the market with Chinese celebrities.
So the first stage was to continue with their global celebrity ambassador.
Exactly. It's very important that the global celebrity really shows the status of the brand.
And obviously, sometimes it can be a risk. We've seen whether it's local celebrities or international celebrities, they kind of go through ups and downs, whether it's personal issues or perhaps even box office performance of some of their shows or their films. So in terms of minimizing risk, when a brand attaches themselves to a personality, how do you deal with helping brands minimize their risk?
Well, certainly there need to be the right marriage, right? They need to understand each other and what their role is in that engagement. I think like the biggest concern that I've observed from this is too many unauthentic or illegitimate starts launching across Chinese social media. And if you look at the success of the big players in the US social channels like Facebook and Twitter, they're always mentioned in the news. You watch CNN and they always go, oh, Bieber's got this, Bieber just tweeted this, and they're doing it because they're local to those marketplaces, so they're talking about it. Those quotes are not coming out through Chinese social media. Those quotes are being presented, but they're through Chinese celebrities, which makes sense. So although there's a lot of talent coming through and a brand can support some of this talent and leverage off that fan base, you do need to be mindful that the celebrity or the company involved is very well prepared for an authentic campaign.
So Kevin, how does the Chinese market and the fan community here differ from the US market in terms of how they treat celebrities here?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, I'm not an expert in US youth or whatever. I'm spending time here in China, but I mean, we know that, young people overseas in America and Europe, they're quite critical of endorsers or celebrities in that way. They're basically critical on the commercialization of culture. And a lot of times you're seeing comments and criticism on that. The stark difference with China is that, and Chinese young people are not less sophisticated than their Western counterparts. They just appreciate different things. And what I mean from that is that Chinese youth accept an endorser, or they accept that a brand and a celebrity are working together. And that's not a problem with Chinese youth. They're happy to explore what the celebrity and what the brand are doing together. But the question is, as what Andrew said, is it authentic? Do they know exactly what they're doing together, or is it just taking a logo and slapping it on somebody? That's not what young people here want. Young people here are happy to see a celebrity kind of engage a brand in some certain way, but the question is that what the celebrity is about, and also is that what the brand is about? What's the role and the relationship between the brand and the celebrity? And is that what young people here in China understand of the brand and the celebrity? So are they playing in the actual way in which the young person understands those two identities?
But going back to, Elan, the luxury connection now, and with this sense of authenticity, you talked about there needing to be the establishment of the brand first within China, and then secondly attaching it to a Chinese celebrity. Perhaps that has global play, like a Fan Bingbing, for example, but also perhaps increasingly looking really domestically and saying this star has domestic power here, may not be known overseas, but is someone that has a voice for all of China. Do you think that domestic celebrities have the same clout that US celebrities would have in the US?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. It's a mutual benefit relationship. While local celebrity, I think one of the key things is visualize the brand offering. You think about a lot of brands, especially luxury brands, are sophisticated. They have a lot to tell. And Chinese consumers, many of them are not ready to accept a lot of sophisticated things. Then you'd better bring it to someone, and someone can present the brand in a live way. That's the celebrity. And when there is an international star, usually it's far away from our daily life, and it's very hard to get those attributes. But if you have a local star, I give you an example that some of the brands, luxury brands, they never use celebrities international. They use celebrity in China. Because they found that the sophisticated part of the brand cannot be accepted or cannot be understood very well unless someone could stand for it. So then you see
a personification of those values.
Exactly. Then you see Gao Yuanyuan with Longchamp. Have you seen Longchamp go with any celebrities? No. But Gao Yuanyuan go with Longchamp, and it works perfectly well because people understand the lightness, the dancing part, the fun part of the brand through this lady.
I think just further to your point, I agree with those points actually. I think there needs to be a clear marriage and an identification or a commonality about those two entities. But I think it's also worth exploring that a celebrity can act as a bridge or a, for example, a football club partnership. You know, Barcelona does a deal with China Merchants Bank, that it can create a different face on the bank, and it can create a nudge towards a different demographic, maybe a younger youth demographic. Or so it's like, what is your purpose of the engagement with that talent, or let's just say that branded asset, the celebrity or the club or whatever it is? What is the purpose of it? And if it's just simply to re-engage an existing one audience, I mean, certainly it has merit, but I think the more interesting stuff is like, how can a brand create new customers through new channels, through social media? Is obviously, it's great, right? Because it's a different communication tool, but how can a club or an asset play a role in opening up new customers? And I think that's a role that celebrities or clubs or whatever can play a role in that.
Elan, are there any hot celebrities within China that you think brands should be paying attention to and perhaps be creating partnerships with?
Frankly, I think that brands are paying attention to all the celebrities already. There's not plenty celebrities good enough, if we talk about luxury, to choose. If you look at the covers of Vogue and L'Officiel, you found that they are only selected.
There's a handful that appear on all of them.
Exactly. What's wrong here? You know what I mean? They want to choose all the different celebrities, and they found people with status, with international appeal, that is qualified for the cover are only these ones. So that's the issue. I don't think there are too many.
But do you see this trend changing?
I don't think so. You look at the recent film exhibition in Ghana, and basically you see everyone trying to go there. Because Fan Bingbing opened a very good example how she became a superstar on red carpet. Right? So everyone wants to follow the trend and become a superstar, has international exposure. For what? For brand's attention. They want brand pay attention to them and recognize their status to begin to choose them. So to me, that's a trend, but let me add a little bit on youth. It's difficult to say international celebrities' presence on social media right now because it's just beginning. It's tough because of the language and cultural difference, but it's just beginning, and I see it's coming. But at the same time, Chinese stars going international, trying to be picked by global brands, it's definitely there.
Great. Kevin, Elan, Andrew, thanks for joining us. That wraps it up for today. Be sure to subscribe to us on Youku, Tudo, and YouTube. You can also follow us on Weibo and Twitter, and join our LinkedIn group. See you again.